You went with one of our hometown favorites.
I did. I went with the guy whose jersey's right back there.
That's
Adam
what I'm
Thielen.
talking about. Lionel Lakes represent. Lionel Lakes, I hope
Adam
that's
Thielen
right.
kind of felt like he fell off at the end of last year with the emergence of Justin Jefferson, and his target share did go down. But what Adam Thielen showed at the goal line showed me that he's still got it.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that every time...
Detroit Lakes. I need to correct myself before I forget. Detroit Lakes, not Lionel Lakes. I swear I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. What's going on? That's some brand new intro music from, I guess my relative, really, my cousin. He's mixing music. He and a buddy of his that go by Tolena. If you need any mixing, if you need any music done, any background music, any beats, if you're making music, whatever it is, hit them up. Tolena, Tolena. That was dope. I'm feeling fired up now. Yeah. Just Cameron and I this week. Cameron, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Starting to kind of get back and work again.
I know. I know. Well, you summer off with teaching and everything. Yeah, back to the grind.
Yeah, it's a new experience. So, I'm just excited about this mock draft. I think these are by far my favorite episodes. If we could do this every single time, I think I would.
Yes.
There's no question about it. I would just mock draft.
We might just need to do like a spin-off podcast series of just mock drafts. The fellows mock.
Yeah, I love them. I think they're just so much fun. And it's just fun, especially when you're doing it with other people.
Yes.
Because then you can see where they're going, and especially on this one, I did a draft strategy that I've done maybe 2 or 3 times in all my mock drafts that I've done. So it was really interesting for me to see how it shook out.
And no Tyler with us today. Something about he had a damaged reputation or something, and he's not being able to tell his side of the story or something.
So. Yeah, I think him and Michael Thomas have been talking a lot in group therapy, so I think they're kind of on the same page now.
I mean, I was shocked to get that message from Tyler today. No, we're kidding. Tyler is out celebrating his mother's birthday, the opportunity to spend time with family on their birthday. Mm-hmm. So happy birthday to Mama Plath.
Yes, if you guys want to send Tyler a message to let his mom know that happy birthday, then that would be a great idea. She would greatly appreciate it.
Considering we take over her basement to film the podcast, and as you can tell, we're in a different location even. We're at my apartment now. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not, that's just awkward for you. Then you have no clue
we're sorry.
Well, before we get into the mock draft, let's quickly go over some news and notes. There's been a few things that have kind of popped up out of camp, some significant, some not.
For sure.
We'll hopefully touch on some more of the significant things. First one, probably the biggest news, both Saquon Barkley and Amari Cooper are activated off of the PUP list. I think I can speak for you and I, and definitely Tyler as well. We feel fine about Amari Cooper. We knew this was going to be a thing. He was going to come back. I think the initial timeline was middle of August, and he's back even at the start of August. So that's great news. We're confident on Amari. But for Saquon Barkley, it still seems like there's this bad taste in everyone's mouth of, I still don't know what to do with Saquon Barkley. Are you still concerned about Saquon Barkley this year?
I think so, because even though he came back off the PUP list, they haven't said, hey, he is for sure starting week 1.
Right.
Even though he's off the PUP list, he's still doing individual drills. He's not doing team drills yet. Yep. So it's still a little bit of a road back, and I don't think there's no way the Giants should rush him back.
No.
He's their franchise right now. That's what he is. And so taking him, especially in a redraft, in that first round is going to be tough because you might not have him for the first 3 weeks, and he might be and even if you do, he's probably on a snap count.
Yeah.
And so I assume by middle of the year he'll be back to full health. But you could be waiting a couple weeks for that. So that is what scares me. But I think he'll for sure be back to full health.
He's so tough because we know his upside is running back 1. Yeah. We know that's his ceiling.
Oh, yeah. It was McCaffrey of 2019 numbers.
Absolutely.
That's what he can put up.
Absolutely. And to know you may not get that at all this season, but yet you're still going to spend talent-wise, you want to spend a top 5 pick on him, but you just can't right now. And I've seen him go all the way to like pick 10, 11, 12 in some mock drafts, and I don't know if that's crazy or if that's smart. And he all of a sudden has become one of the most frustrating players for me to try and draft because I want to believe in his talent, believe in his value, believe that he's going to come back strong from it. He's had a year to recover. Yeah. But all of a sudden, I'm just not sure.
All right, let me ask you: Saquon or Zeke?
Zeke, 100%.
Saquon or Chubb?
See, and this is where the tier goes for me because I would lean Nick. I want to lean Nick Chubb purely because I know he's going to be healthy. But I want to go Saquon because he's not in the timeshare. He has the receiving game. All the things that could go right for Saquon blow him away past Zeke. But you just don't know.
Yep.
You just don't know. So you can make an argument for any of those guys. But I don't know what to do with Saquon Barkley. I'm probably going to draft him as running back 6 behind McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, Henry, and Zeke. But man, I have a tough time.
See, I'm all the way down at. I think I draft him at 8. I draft behind Chubb and Aaron Jones,
and I don't blame you.
Yeah, just because it just scares me, And as a first round pick, I just want a guy I know is going to be solid.
Yeah.
And all those other guys I know will be in that top 7 conversation.
Yeah.
So that's what scares me. But obviously, it's tough too because you can get an injury from a running back at any time.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that countless times. There's a top. Probably 2 or 3 other top 10 running backs get hurt every single year. And so you can't predict it, but when there's a guy already coming in with an injury, that's hard too.
Absolutely. You can't win your draft in the first 2 rounds, but you definitely can lose it.
Yes.
And that's the big thing is how much of a risk do you really want to take on Saquon Barkley in the first round?
Yeah, 100%.
Second piece of news, which again is important, unfortunately comes from another running back, DeAndre Swift, missing significant practice time with a groin injury. I put it on TikTok too. I put it in the comments section of one of the videos. Look, man, I want to be a Swiftie. I want to be a believer. This doesn't help though. Yes. This doesn't help. Do we need to start looking at the Lions backfield as if it's going to be a committee? Because right now the look for Jamal Williams the outlook for Jamal Williams keeps looking better and better
unfortunately
as camp goes on.
Yeah. He's DeAndre Swift and probably J.K. Dobbins are the 2 players that I think all 3 of us want to love so bad.
Yes.
I want to put them in my top 12 so bad because I know they're so unbelievably skilled.
Yeah.
It's just where the situation they are in. I cannot convince myself to take them even inside the top 15. And so that's made it really difficult. And now with this news, like you're saying, it's tough because these things sometimes they're fine, but there are other times where like this groin injury will continually come up throughout the year.
Yes.
And so it's hard now to go into your draft saying, "Hey, I've got a guy who's injured." So especially if you're a guy that took Saquon, you should not be taking DeAndre Swift as well.
Needless to say, if you have one injured guy, your strategy should not be to draft another injured guy. And groins are one of those too that seem to just kind of linger if you don't take the time to really heal up from
100%.
them. They tend to linger. So that's not me saying you need to tank Swift outside of your top 20, but it's also me saying all of a sudden I'm looking at Swift and where I had him. I think I have him at running back 17. All of a sudden I'm feeling a lot better about that ranking, and I'm not feeling like I'm missing an opportunity there.
No, not at all.
Well, let's get on to the mock draft. We've talked about a handful of players, a lot of which are going in the early rounds. So we did another 12-team PPR mock draft.
Yes, we did.
Just us 3. We'd use the Sleeper app, one of our favorite apps to use for mock drafts. They are not a sponsor. We're not giving a promotion for this, but Sleeper, we appreciate you.
We do.
We really do. This adds more fun to our off season, and we're actually doing a dynasty startup through Sleeper this year.
Go.
So. Great app to use as a resource for all you listeners out there as well if you're looking to not get stuck in a lobby with a bunch of randos who likely go on auto draft after the first 3 rounds anyways on ESPN. Yes. So 12-team PPR mock draft. Tyler had the 5th pick, Cameron had the 10th pick, and I had the 11th pick. I think we all took different strategies than we were probably used to which was really interesting. And we'll each talk a little bit about that.
We all took different positions in the first round.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time this happened.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, Cameron finally didn't have pick 3 or 4, and he didn't have to draft Alvin Kamara again.
Yep. I had to switch it up a little. Actually, they tried to give me pick 3.
They tried. I know. We had to randomize it 3 times, I think.
Because they wanted to give me 3 or 4.
They really want Alvin Kamara to be on Cameron's team this year, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, let's run through it. Team 1, pick number 1 overall, Dalvin Cook. Again, 5% chance this actually happens in your league. If Christian McCaffrey doesn't go number 1, I want you to go over to the person who's drafting number 1 in your league and just bop him upside the head real quick, because they're not thinking straight if they're not taking McCaffrey number 1.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I get the arguments for Dalvin Cook, but man, it is just irrefutable how
when you can have 100 receptions, 20 touchdowns, and 2,000 total yards. I don't know how you can't take it.
Christian McCaffrey, I want to question if Le'Veon Bell is like a prophet. Because, you know, he's like, I want to be paid wide receiver money and running back money. Like, he literally just predicted Christian McCaffrey, and then McCaffrey comes in the league and starts lighting it up like this, right? But anyways, Dalvin Cook, pick number 1, Christian McCaffrey, number 2, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, pick 5, Tyler went Nick Chubb here. Yep. And Cameron, you have Tyler's thoughts in front of you.
So Tyler's thinking, you know, the big 4 went off the board. Those are his 4 no matter what. And he preferred Chubb over everyone else, over Zeke and Taylor and also Saquon. Mm-hmm. And so his thoughts were, no matter what, at pick 5, I'm taking running back.
I think you have to.
And he just prefers Chubb. He's a full-on Chubb believer. So
he really is. I think he's the highest on Nick Chubb out of all of us. I think he does have him at running back 5. Yep. I think you have him at running back 6, and I have him at running back 7.
Yeah, and I'm teetering towards 7. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yep, absolutely. So personally, I would have taken Zeke there, but hey, Tyler likes Nick Chubb, and I really don't fault him for that. I'm not going to fault him for it. Nick Chubb is arguably the most explosive running back in the NFL.
100%.
Pick 6 went Saquon Barkley. Tyreek Hill, pick 7. Jonathan Taylor, pick 8. Ezekiel Elliott. Then Cameron at pick 10. You went.
I was thinking Zeke. That would have been the running back I would have taken. And I got to 10. I was like, you know what? I haven't done this in a long time. I've barely done this. So I went Travis Kelsey at tight end. Mm-hmm. Now, I know I've kind of said my manifesto on how much I don't like tight ends. However, we've talked about this before. Travis Kelsey is wide receiver 4 last year.
He's so good.
And he probably is going to be a wide receiver 5 again this year. 105 receptions last year, 1,300 total yards. He had 32 more points than tight end 2 and 100 more points than tight end 3 last year.
It's insane.
He's going to give you 6 to 8 points over everyone else.
Yep.
Just a little foreshadowing, as I looked at the rest of my draft, I didn't like my team as much, but it's just, if you take Kelsey that high, you're reminding yourself, I have a 6 to 8 point advantage every single week at the tight end position, and that will cover all the other holes that I do have in my lineup.
You play a psychological game taking Travis Kelsey that high, because you have to remember you're drafting him as a wide receiver.
Yes,
almost.
You are.
And we put that on our TikTok. If you don't follow our TikTok at Fantasy Football Fellas, we've been releasing some awesome content on there recently, both knowledgeable, but also like Cameron's been killing it with the comedy on there. So I need to give you a round of applause quick.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, we said it on there. I mean, if you're gonna take Travis Kelsey back end of your first round, early second round, you have to pretend he's gonna be a wide receiver on your team, because he's giving you that kind of volume.
And
you have to be comfortable realizing if you're passing on a Devontae, a Diggs, we'll even say DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, guys in that range, you're that hole on your team, the 2 spots at wide receiver, realistically one of them's taken up. Yeah. You just have the luxury of now picking 2 other wide receivers of your choice, which it's a confusing way to think about it, but
100%.
It's the way we're transitioning in fantasy.
Yes.
So pick 11 was me then, and this was a no-brainer for me. Devontae Adams here, no question. I'm a firm believer that Devontae Adams should be the first wide receiver off your board this year. Aaron Rodgers is back. Aaron Jones is hanging around there still. Devontae Adams is around for another year.
Devontae is the only pass catcher on that team.
He is.
Aaron Jones catches the ball, but he is the only wide receiver or tight end that's even worth mentioning.
Absolutely. And, they brought in Randall Cobb. Okay, whatever.
He'll take 50 targets.
Whatever,
Give me a
right.
break. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Devontae Adams should be your clear-cut number 1. He was wide receiver 1 by 30 fantasy points last year. And he only
missed
played
2 games.
He missed 2 games, and he still led everyone by 30 points. And granted, that came with some, touchdown equity, 18 touchdowns last season.
He's still going to be double digits this year.
He's still going to be double digits this year. And so in 2019, he only played 12 games. He was wide receiver 5 in fantasy points per game. He was wide receiver 2 overall in 2018. I can just keep throwing out numbers all day if you want me to. 25.6 fantasy points per game last year. He was fourth in targets amongst wide receivers last year. He was second in receptions, tied for fourth amongst wide receivers in yards. 18 touchdowns, obviously led all wide receivers there.
Yep.
It's a no-brainer. He's outscored Tyreek Hill in every season that they've played, that they've been in the NFL together.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the argument. I understand the argument for Tyreek.
Yes.
I shouldn't say I don't understand. But it seems illogical to me when, even in seasons where they've both been hurt, where they both have missed time, Devontae Adams has still managed to outscore Tyreek Hill.
Adams just gets more targets.
He does.
And when you have more targets, you're more likely to be consistent.
Yes, absolutely. And like Stephon Diggs too, I get.
Yes.
I get the arguments for him. I will get to him in a second here. Travis Kelsey, I get it too, but man, it's just tough when he has scored all of them since 2018, except for 2019 when Travis Kelsey went nuts and Devontae Adams only played 12 games. But he should be the number one wide receiver off your board.
Yeah, I mean, I was really thinking Devontae there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to try this.
And you have to chew on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. No, and when especially when you get to a situation like you were where Zeke was your pick. He was falling to you, and then all of a sudden he's gone. You have to make a
100%.
split-second decision almost.
100%.
Wrap around, Team 12 took Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler, which I was kind of bummed out about because I really wanted to land one of those two. Eckler is sneaking up in my rankings, and by sneaking up, I mean he's just moving up like one spot because Jonathan Taylor is dropping down 3 spots. But I'm really starting to become more in on Austin Eckler this year.
The whole Chargers offense.
Yeah, well, give me all of them this year,
Yes.
man. I'll take any of them. I mean, I stared at Antonio Gibson. I stared at Najee Harris. I stared at Joe Mixon. Stephon Diggs was looking me right in the face and says, "You're going to look like a fool if you don't take me right now." I'm stacking arguably the 2 best wide receivers for fantasy football this year.
And the 2 best volume wide receivers.
Yeah,
They're
100%.
going to lead the league in targets this year.
He was
not even close.
Volume machine last year. Diggs was number 1 in targets with 166.
Yeah.
127 receptions, which was also leading amongst wide receivers. And he led in yards too, over 1,500 yards, which was the most by 125 yards.
Just insane.
It's a no-brainer. He's going to outscore any of those other running backs.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to remind myself. I might not win my league with just those 2 picks, but I'll tell you what, I'm not going to come in last place with those 2 unless they get injured, and I'm not banking on. I don't draft. You don't draft based on injury prediction. He only had 18 touchdowns last year, but I think that's his average over 4 years. So I'm going to assume he's going to score another 7, 8, 9 this season. I'm not too worried about that. You can't go wrong with Stephon Diggs.
No, not at all.
So, look, I'm happy with my start, stacking Devontae Adams, stacking Stephon Diggs together.
Yep.
I can't complain. Then Cameron, I know how happy you were that I didn't take a running back here.
I had to take Joe Mixon here. I wanted running back. I was like Lucas. I was a little farther away, so the thought of Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler following me were a lot slimmer.
Pretty slim.
But I still had my hopes up. Getting Joe Mixon here, he was my next running back off the board. He hasn't finished lower than RB13 in points per game. And so for me, it was a no-brainer here because I hate waiting for running backs, getting in rounds 3, 4, 5. So that's why I took Joe Mixon. There's not much more I can say about that.
No, and I think in your position too, it's probably the right thing to do because otherwise you're waiting on running back for a long time.
Yes.
Team 9 went Najee Harris, DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Mahomes, middle of the second round. That's far too early.
Yeah.
Fight me on it. Antonio Gibson, the next pick. Then came back to Tyler, who took DK Metcalf.
Yeah, Tyler took DK Metcalf. He wanted Gibson there. He said he got fooled a little bit by the sleeper award, seeing that DK was falling.
Classic.
He had Ridley a spot higher than DK. He also thought about CEH, but he thought that he might be able to get him back in round 3 just because where he was at on the big board.
Yep.
So DK was his pick. He likes his touchdown upside. He likes just the physical beast that is DK. There's no denying how much more physically dominant DK is than all corners that he's going to face. So he's not a bad pick. I just think that we all think that Ridley has a higher ceiling this season.
Absolutely. And the thing with DK Metcalf is I went on the record on TikTok really saying it of like they're going to go back to a pass-heavy offense, a run-heavy offense, which is false.
Yeah.
I need to correct myself there. they're going to be an offense with more pace,
Yes.
which means more scoring opportunity, which doesn't necessarily signify they're going to pass or run more. I think they'll kind of be more of that balanced team, which
Yes.
boded well for DK last season. I still just don't. If he was wide receiver 7 last year playing in that kind of a system, I don't know if he can finish higher than that again this year. And that's my only
100%.
knock. But touchdown upside, he's a beast. I mean, look, I'm not going to argue the pick because he's going as wide receiver 5 off almost every board right now, and that's exactly where we went in this draft.
And I wouldn't either. I don't think any of us would. We probably wouldn't take him that high usually in any of our drafts. It's just because of his ceiling. We think he's being drafted at his ceiling, but we would never fault you for taking DK that high because we know how good he is. We saw it last year.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, wide receiver 1 is his upside.
Yes.
Again, me personally, I'm not the believer that he's going to crack top 5.
Yep.
But will he be knocking on the door of top 5? Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Of course he will. Team 4, A.J. Brown, George Kittle, Justin Jefferson. On the wraparound 2 to 3, Calvin Ridley, Darren Waller, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and back to Tyler, who took another wide receiver.
He wanted CEH. He
did.
Got sniped again on the come around. He went with Keenan Allen, who he said it perfectly. He's a fellow fave. We all love Keenan Allen, like we were saying earlier. You can't get enough stock in that Chargers offense. He's a target hog. He's good for about 150 targets a year.
Yeah.
I mean, he finished with under 1,000 yards last year, which was just an anomaly. Usually he's about 1,200 yards. So he's tough to pick. He thought about Chris Carson here to get 2 running backs. Decided to go with Keenan Allen. Just because he does prefer Keenan Allen more, and he thinks that he's got a higher ceiling.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I don't think look, Chris Carson's a fine option this year. We all like Chris Carson this year, but man, we all have Keenan Allen inside
100%.
of our top 7 wide receivers.
Yeah.
So it's tough to argue that when you get a potentially top 7 wide receiver at wide receiver 9.
Yep.
DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Nick Chubb. That's a great start to your draft.
Yeah.
That's a great start. Miles Sanders was off the board next, followed by Josh Jacobs. You fools! You computers at Sleeper, you fools.
Couldn't agree more.
That's all. Okay, go look at our TikTok. You can slander us on TikTok for saying Miles Sanders is overpriced right now.
But he is.
But he is.
He 100% is. Don't take Miles Sanders.
We won't get into that argument. I feel like I just need to spend a whole podcast talking about why I'm right, why we're right. We can take out his 74-yard and 74 and 82-yard runs and be okay with it. Sorry. Josh Jacobs, Josh Allen, middle of the 3rd round. Allen Robinson was next, and Cameron.
So here I went Terry McLaurin. I was thinking Terry here. I loved his upside of Terry McLaurin in that
100%.
offense. He could be a guy that cracks the top 5, being the clear wide receiver 1 in that offense, having Fitzpatrick who will move the ball down the field. I should have gone running back, looking back at it. There was 2 guys on the board that I wanted, and David Montgomery, and who's the other one? Chris Carson.
Chris Carson was still there.
And I wanted one of the 2, and so I figured maybe one will drop. However, I did not look at Lucas's board, realizing that he had 0 running backs. But the other wide receiver I was thinking of was Amari Cooper here. Mm-hmm. But I figured Terry's going to go earlier. I can get Amari later. And I was like, you know what? I want someone with... I think Terry's got higher upside than Amari this year just because he's the wide receiver 1 where Amari is going to be competing with targets with CeeDee Lamb.
Absolutely. And CeeDee Lamb's the big name this year that everyone keeps throwing out is going to be the top 5 wide receiver that we've been experiencing with Calvin Ridley and Chris Godwin the past couple years. And every time I want to keep pumping the brakes on that, but every week I think I continue to get I start to really like CeeDee Lamb more and
he
more.
Is
every week.
Unbelievably talented.
It is. Yes.
Him and Justin Jefferson are just on another level in that rookie class.
Yes. Yeah. Amari Cooper. Look, yeah. I still hold on to the belief that Amari Cooper could be a top 5 wide receiver this year. But at the same time, I hold on to that belief that CeeDee Lamb could be a top 10 wide receiver, and all of a sudden Amari Cooper is like wide receiver 12, right?
Yes.
So it's so tough, but I agree. I think Terry McLaurin has great upside this year, and especially with the addition of Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
Even though he's missing time right now, it's valuable time at training camp. But man, he is a threat in the short game, and he is the perfect short game complement to
100%.
Terry McLaurin.
He's not going to steal targets on the field, but all he's going to do is open up the field.
100%. Couldn't agree more. Next came me. I had to go running back here, and I was super pleased that Chris Carson was here. I stacked two of the best wide receivers in fantasy football. I would do it again if I had to. But look, the fact that I get Chris Carson, who, look, he's got top 15 upside.
Yeah.
I think his ceiling is kind of capped at like running back 10 or 12 probably, only because he just doesn't get the insane receiving work that a lot of those top 10 guys do.
And he's just not on the same skill level as those top 10 guys.
No, he's a simple ground and pound running back.
And I mean, he's a real solid running back. I'm not taking anything away from him by saying that, but he doesn't have the same explosiveness as Dalvin or Chubb or Kamara or those guys.
Right. Finishes the last 3 seasons. In 2020, he was running back 19 in 12 games. 2019, he was running back 12 in 15 games. Did I say he was running back 19 in 2020? Yeah. I did. Okay. Yeah. I keep getting that confused because he played 12 games, but then the year prior, he was running back 12. Yeah. So 2019, he was running back 12 in 15 games. 2018, running back 15 in 14 games. So he's going to miss some games every year. Yeah. He gets nicked up. But I mean, he's getting a ton of work. When he's out there, he's a beast, yeah. 2018, 247 rushing attempts was good for 7th amongst running backs. 2019, 278 attempts, which was tied for 5th among running backs. He's going to get insane volume still. Even if the Seahawks are going to play with more pace, I said that already, but it's more scoring opportunity. Yeah. I don't think it takes anything away from Chris Carson. I think it just adds the potential of more touchdown equity with the fact that, okay, he might not be like running back 12, but it could be running back 15.
Shard Penny just got hurt.
Yeah.
So is he alone in that backfield?
Competition has never been a problem for Chris Carson, even though everyone says it is. They brought in Carlos Hyde. Well, okay, how did that go?
Well, now they're talking about DJ Dallas, who in the games where Chris Carson was out was not exactly.
He's not Chris Carson.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not Chris Carson.
You're going to give the ball to your best player.
Absolutely.
That's how it's going to be.
So I mean, Chris Carson. He's the safe ceiling, safe floor running back in the 3rd round. Is my running back 1. Look, he's not the sexiest pick on the board. And
but you have Devontae and Diggs.
But I have Devontae and Stephon Diggs who are getting me 20 a week.
Exactly.
Look, I'm pleased, and Carson's going to give me 15. I'm pleased. Yes. On the wraparound then, man, my phone just went off on me. On the wraparound, Julio Jones, Kyler Murray at the start of the 4th. Man, those quarterbacks are really creeping up. Again, really pleased with this pick. I needed another running back, so I took David Montgomery. Started off the season, this offseason at least, I was like 100% out on David Montgomery, only because Tariq Cohen was coming back and Damian Williams is new in town, and the insane volume that Montgomery was receiving at the end of last season, both in rushing and receiving. Like he was off the charts. He was 247 attempts, which was 4th amongst running backs, tied for 5th in total yards in rushing yards amongst running backs. 6th in targets with 68, and 6th in receptions with 54.
Crazy.
And Montgomery wasn't even close to the top 12, top 15 in any of those in 2019. No. So, I want to say it's kind of an anomaly season, but Tariq Cohen's still struggling with that knee injury. Nagy's been hyping it up at camp. 220 touches a game is possible for Montgomery in every game this season. Look, in the Fantasy Pros report, he's got new power, new burst this season. I don't know. I feel like that's what every beat reporter says about like a young running back who's like taking a step forward, right? I don't know how much weight to put into it, but my point being is he's not going to be top 5, but look, if that's my running back too, after having Devontae, Diggs, and now Carson, I feel like I have 2 safe floor running backs whose upsides aren't like crazy high.
They could creep into that top 10. Both of them could.
They're going to fall between 15 and 20, or 10 and 15 this year. I'm pleased. Not much more I can say about that. So, my start to the draft: Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Chris Carson, David Montgomery. Cameron, you were next. Took another wide receiver.
I did, and that was just because those 2 running backs were gone, and I think there's a big gap after those 2 are off the board.
Yes.
So I went Amari Cooper. He was just so good at the beginning of last season. He was fighting Calvin Ridley for that wide receiver 1 before Dak's injury. Mm-hmm. Before we go saying Amari Cooper is getting old, Amari Cooper is less than 6 months older than Calvin Ridley.
Oh, man. Calvin Ridley's old. He's old. He's an old man.
Amari Cooper's not even 27 yet.
I thought he was 28 for whatever reason, but now that you say that, he is 26. I do remember that.
He feels like he's been in the league forever, but he's still young, and so he's just so explosive. That offense is so explosive, and like I said before, I was thinking about him the pick before this. Like he was one of those guys I was thinking about, and so now to get him coming back, I think Dak's gonna be back, and like we said earlier, I'm not worried about the injury at all. So I had to take him here. It was just to get him as my wide receiver too. That makes me feel a lot better about my wide receivers.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I'm still nervous about my running backs right now with just Joe Mixon, but I am feeling really good about my wide receivers and tight ends. So
top 1 tight end in Travis Kelsey.
yes.
Top 12 running back in Joe Mixon. I'm going to say it. Top 10 wide receiver in Terry McLaurin. Arguably top 10 wide receiver in Amari Cooper.
For sure, 2 top 15 wide receivers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%. So you have to feel good about where you're at. So Cameron has Travis Kelsey, Joe Mixon, Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper. Next off the board went another quarterback, Lamar Jackson, followed by Cooper Kupp, Darrell Henderson, Mike Evans. Came to Tyler, who, like you, took another wide receiver.
Yeah, and so Tyler took Chris Godwin, who I can't fault him for. I think we're all high on Godwin. I think we all are.
I've got him higher than Mike Evans, I'll tell you that much.
I think I do too, and I think Tyler's actually the only one that has Evans higher.
And I think it's just because I think he's still Tom Brady's favorite red zone target, even though I think he's going to see regression there.
He thought about Gaskin here, but he tried to play the board, which I don't know why, because it already hasn't worked out for him twice.
Yeah, he's already swung and missed twice.
But in his words, he says, Godwin's a flex. Good night, New York. He's excited. He makes his wide receivers Metcalf, Allen, and Godwin, which you can't argue with. That's a great wide receiving core moving forward.
Absolutely.
That's you got 3 guys. You just leave them and play them every week. So there's not much to argue there.
No, not much to argue there whatsoever. Look, the gap between Myles Gaskin and Chris Godwin, I think, is probably going to be fairly significant this year. It's going to be enough where you're going to be happy you took Chris Godwin there as your flex versus Gaskin as a running back too.
Yes.
Following Chris Godwin, Kyle Pitts, DJ Moore. Wow, Kyle Pitts went as tight end 4? I didn't even realize that.
That's insane.
That's nuts.
But that's where he's been going. People are just taking him that high.
I thought he was going after Andrews and Hawkinson.
No.
Oh, man. I didn't even realize that.
That's where we're thinking you should take him, by the way, is after Andrews and Hawkinson.
You got to take those top 5 guys first.
100%.
Yeah. There's no guarantee Kyle Pitts has this.
But he could. So, I mean, we know it's tough that there's that possibility. It's just we haven't seen rookie tight ends.
Bingo. DJ Moore followed Kyle Pitts, Michael Thomas on the turn. Robert Woods, Travis Etienne, another quarterback, Russell Wilson, Myles Gaskin. Man, Tyler, sucks for you, man.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett. I don't know what Tyler would have done in this situation.
Yeah.
Well, I know what he did, but if I would have gotten sniped on 3 running backs in a row,
I know.
I'd be peeved.
Yeah.
Especially looking at the board of running backs now. So who to go with, Cameron?
And so he went with Mark Andrews as tight end. I think he's his tight end 5, actually. I think he has Hawkinson.
He has Hawkinson at 4.
He does have Hawkinson at 4. So he did go Andrews here. He
At least
really wanted Gaskin. And the next running back for him was Mike Davis, but he felt like Mike Davis was too early in the 5th to take him.
Well, there's still there's so many good players left on the board too.
And so he felt like he was left with quarterback or tight end, and he didn't think there was a quarterback worth taking, especially with how early quarterbacks went in this draft. Yeah. And so I don't blame him there. Round 5 is probably the earliest I would draft a quarterback.
100%.
If it was one of those top 4.
And normally I've seen Kyler Murray going in like the round 5 range, not round 4. Yeah. Like at the start of round 4. Anyways.
So I don't blame him. So it'd probably be different in a normal draft, but this one, it was tough pickings at quarterback position. So he decided to go Mark Andrews, who's a solid tight end pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, no arguing Mark Andrews. He's going to get volume this year, especially now that Rashad Bateman may miss a bit of time as well. We'll see how far that goes into the regular season. Man, if I were Tyler, I'd really be peeved too, because seeing what wide receivers went off the board afterwards, I know he would have been really happy with any of these guys. If he could have gotten a running back instead in those early rounds. CeeDee Lamb in the 5th after Mark Andrews, Jamar Chase, Deontay Johnson tail end of the 5th, Javonte Williams, Cameron. Came to you, and who'd you go with? You went with one of our hometown favorites.
I did. I went with the guy whose jersey's right back there.
That's what I'm talking about. Lino Lakes represent.
We were
Lionel Lakes, I hope
Adam
that's right.
Thielen kind of felt like he fell off at the end of last year with the emergence of Justin Jefferson, and his target share did go down. But what Adam Thielen showed at the goal line showed me that he still got it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
The fact that every time...
Detroit Lakes. I need to correct myself before I forget. Detroit Lakes, not Lionel Lakes. I swear I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan.
I thought Lionel Lakes sounded wrong. I just didn't say anything.
I knew it was a Lakes. I knew it was a Lakes.
He was, anytime they were within the 5, he was 10. He had like 10 yards of separation. It didn't even make sense how he was always so wide open.
And it's beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful not running.
So even though he's at 14 touchdowns last year, there is going to be regression. I took him here knowing that, but I don't think there will be enough where it knocks him out of flex consideration.
No.
And in that offense, he's the clear number 2. He's going to get that number 2 corner.
Yes.
And so that's what I think could help. I would be a little more nervous if he was still like, oh, he could be wide receiver 1 in this offense. But teams are 10 out of 10 times going to put their cornerback 1 on Justin Jefferson. He's too explosive not to. And so that's why I took Adam Thielen in this position. I'm kind of was in the same place as Ty. Mike Davis was my next guy. I didn't want to take him here. I felt like it was too early. I'd rather sure up having 3 solid wide receivers that I trust.
Absolutely. No question. Not going to argue anything there at all whatsoever. Adam Thielen represent Minnesota. TJ Hawkinson was my pick next, and man, I was like hoping and praying after seeing Tyler take Mark Andrews that one of those 3 wide receivers, CD, Deontay, Jamar Chase. I was hoping one of them.
Those were who I wanted.
Yeah, I was hoping one of them. Yes. One of them would fall to me, but they didn't. And look, I took Hawkinson. I got 2 running backs shirt up. I wasn't sure who I really wanted as a flex play yet. I looked at Kenny Golladay here as well, but man, that nagging hamstring injury,
especially after last year.
Oh, it's I got burned on Kenny Golladay real bad last year. I bought into him early, thought it was going to be the season-saving move, and I still had to fight because he just bailed on me.
It kept looking like it was going to be.
I know. It was, but man, so that nagging hamstring injury is keeping me away from Kenny Golladay.
And that was my thought process too with Golladay.
Yeah, and look, and TJ Hawkinson, I have him as tight end 4.
Yeah.
He's the safest player on the board. That isn't a QB, I think.
Yeah.
Look, he was tight end 5 last year. He was 5th amongst tight ends in targets, 4th in receptions, 3rd in yards. He's the best pass catching option for the Lions right now.
He might be the best player on the Lions right now.
He's in a pass heavy game script because that Lions team is not going to be good.
Nope.
He's going to be a great tight end option this year. He's not going to jump into that Kelsey, Kittle, Waller range, but look, he solidified himself as a top 5 tight end last season. I think he's going to be there again this year. And look, having 5 guys who I feel really good about this year, who have safe floors this year, I'm loving it. I'm loving
100%.
it. On the turn then, when Kareem Hunt, round 6 started with Kenny Golladay going, and I decided to go Brandon Ayuk here. And Brandon Ayuk's been a sneaky one for me. Yeah. Because all season I've tried to hold out hope for Deebo Samuel. Mm-hmm. I've been trying so hard, and look, I some guy dropped Deebo in one of my leagues last year, and I swooped in and picked him up, and Deebo was great for the 2 weeks I had him, and then
he's hurt again.
He goes and gets hurt again, and look, I want to buy into Deebo Samuel and that he's going to stay healthy, but man, in the games that Deebo wasn't there, I also had Brandon Ayuk, and he was pretty dang good. Yeah. Unbelievable. Hype coming out of camp has been good so far about him. Apparently he's been pretty electric with Trey Lance too so far. I'm not saying Trey Lance is going to start day 1, but
there's a better
are looking
chance
good
that he starts this season.
Things are looking good.
Yep.
In 12 games last season, he had nearly 100 targets, 60 receptions, 750 yards. He was wide receiver 18 in fantasy points per game with 15.6.
Yeah.
The big stretch that I really, really took the sample size out of weeks 2 through 15, so pretty much the entire season. He was wide receiver 20 and missed 2 games during that stretch. Look, Brandon Ayuk, to the moon. I will take him 100%. To the moon this year. The upside's there. Yeah. It really is. Also, I need to insert a note here. I just saw this today. DraftKings has DraftKings betting has Brandon Ayuk over under on yards this season at 875.5 yards. Go win some free money, people.
Yeah.
Go win some free money. Take the over.
Unless he's hurt all season, there's no way he does not pass 875 yards.
He's gonna 1,000 yards this year. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be CeeDee Lamb level good, right? Like CeeDee Lamb, he could realistically hit 1,250 yards this year. Brandon Ayuk, I don't think he's gonna be that good because the San Francisco offense is just they do what they want when they want, and there's no predicting it. But like seriously, 1,000-yard season is not out of the realm of possibility.
Especially when they
Ayuk.
Spent a first on him last year.
Like, and he was good. He performed well.
So they want him to be to be good.
Yeah. Look, he's a fair value in the 6th round. That's ultimately what I went with. I am not complaining whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Brandon Ayuk was my pick, and Cameron finally got that second running back.
Yeah, I had to go Mike Davis here. He's my next running back off the board. I just could not wait any longer on running back. That's kind of what it came down to.
Yeah.
He's the only guy in the backfield, high PPR upside after last year. If he would have played all 16 games, he was on pace for, I think, 90 targets or something like that.
Yeah, he was at a real pretty solid pace last year.
He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Unless they sign someone, he's going to be the guy.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to get crazy volume. I know it's Arthur Smith, and I know that they ran a ton with Derrick Henry, but I'm going to assume Arthur Smith realizes that Mike Davis is not Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
So I took Mike Davis, just saying, you know what, I need a running back. He's the only guy I really, really would feel even okay with having as my RB2
absolutely
throughout the season. So yeah, that was my reasoning for taking Mike Davis there.
Yep. No complaints there, and especially just looking at some of those guys then that are going after him. It's tough. It's tough to argue who's going to actually outscore who.
100%.
So no, Mike Davis there is a fine option as running back 2 for your team. T. Higgins went after that. James Robinson, Noah Fant, Dak Prescott. See, this is about where I'd expect guys like Dak and Russ and some of those guys to go. So fair value on Dak Prescott there. And speaking of quarterbacks, Tyler went quarterback here as well.
Yeah, he took Justin Herbert. He said he really likes the Herbert Allen stack.
Yep, that's what I noticed. Blame him.
He didn't feel a need to take any wide receiver here. He has tight end covered, so that's not a thought. And knowing what running backs were available, he wasn't exactly chomping at the bit for any of them. He
either.
He needs a running back 2, and then looking at what other teams ahead of him needed, they've all sniped his running backs, so they don't need running backs right now either. So he decided to go quarterback here.
Yeah, and when you play the board like that, it's tough to go wrong. Justin Herbert's going to be a great option this year.
Yep.
Devonta Smith went afterwards. Juju, Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham Jr. on the turn, 6 to 7. Aaron Rodgers, DJ Chark. I don't like that pick. Chase Claypool. I don't like that pick even more. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady, Trevor Lawrence. This is why we're drafting against computers.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing. But anyways, Tom Brady, Trevor Lawrence. Back to Tyler, who, he wasn't chomping at the bit to get a running back. He still took one here.
Yeah, he's his running back 2.
He kind of needed to.
He
but
did.
In that last round, none of those guys would seem appealing. I get that.
He took Chase Edmonds here. It came down to, for him, Edmonds, Melvin Gordon, Raheem Mostert, and Leonard Fournette. He preferred Edmonds over all of them due to PPR upside. Because we are doing a full PPR right now. He'd much, much rather have Edmonds as his RB3. Mm-hmm. But in this case, would have to settle for him as his RB2. And just hope that the strength that he has as his wide receivers and tight end position can kind of cover up whatever is lacking in this running back spot.
I mean, and ultimately, when you have DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, and Chris Godwin as your 3 wide receivers, you're sticking Godwin at the slot, Justin Herbert, your quarterback. I mean, look, you've got my theory, how I like to see it is if you need to have at least one running back, ideally one running back in the top 5, 6.
Yep.
2 wide receivers who can crack the top 10, another one who can crack the top 15, if not top 12. Top 5 tight end, top 5 quarterback, and who cares after that? And all of those guys have that upside.
Yeah. 100%.
So even though it seems weird and kind of odd to wait that long and have your 2 running backs be Nick Chubb and Chase Edmonds, look, Chase Edmonds has got a great upside this year too.
100%.
Finished, I believe he finished inside of the top. I know the top 30 running backs for sure. I think he was knocking on the door at top 25. I think he takes a step forward this year. I don't think they're going to feed James Conner like they did Kenyon Drake last year.
Yep.
They're going to, nerf each other, but ultimately, look, Chase Edmonds is a fine pick.
Yes.
Team 6 went Melvin Gordon, Cortland Sutton, Leonard Fournette, Jalen Waddle. Cameron took one of your favorite players this year.
I had to go with Robbie Anderson here.
Yeah.
He was probably the most solid wide receiver. I wasn't really feeling anyone else at this spot, and I really, really like Robbie. I've been getting all of Robbie that I can. The reunion with Sam Darnold, I understand Sam Darnold has not looked great, but like we've said countless times, he is away from Adam Gase,
Yep.
and that does wonders for your career. He had 136 targets last year. I understand McCaffrey's back, but to get a guy who's going to get over 100 targets in round 7, I'm okay with.
Yes.
And he had, 3 touchdowns last year? That's going to go up as your wide receiver 2 in this offense. So I was more than happy to get Robbie Anderson as my wide receiver 4.
Your wide receiver 4,
Yeah.
that's what it is,
Yeah.
right? You got Robbie at I wouldn't say an insane value, but to add that kind of depth to your
Yes.
team, awesome.
A guy who's probably going to put up 13, 14 points a week no matter what.
If anything, you use him to get a better running back.
100%. 100%.
All right, so I was next. Look, so I got a weird work-related phone call while we were drafting. And this was the pick. It was like right as I was like, oh man, who do I pick? I mean, there's all sorts of guys on the board. Raheem Mostert, Michael Carter, Trey Sermon, Debo is on the board, Jerry Jeudy, Ronald Jones. I mean, just a handful of the guys I was looking at. So I'm sitting on the phone like trying to help this person out, and crap, okay, I need to pick within 2 minutes here, but I'm also trying to help this person because it's an important phone call, and I end up going Raheem Mostert here. I'm not super thrilled about the pick because I sat and I thought about it afterwards. I'm like, man, how confident am I that Raheem Mostert's actually going to be the starter after 3 weeks this season?
Yeah.
Right? I got thrown off my game for the next like 2 to 3 rounds. That's my excuse. It's not a great one, but
Yeah.
it's a excuse.
I'm going to use it.
I'm going to use it. I mean, look, if the cliff is so steep at this
Yes,
point.
it
Just looking at some of those guys, like Raheem is like the bottom tier of like, okay, like it's either him or like I wait for just pure upside guys, which as a running back 3, I needed some sort of substance.
Yep.
I mean, last season he started off great. He started off where he left off 2019. He was running back 7 in the first 2 weeks before he got injured.
But then never recovered.
Just never recovered.
No.
He still averaged 12.5 fantasy points per game last season, which isn't terrible again. That's fine for my running back 3, but like they drafted Trey Sermon. They're going to use him.
Traded up to get Trey Sermon.
They're going to use so it's like I don't know what I was thinking. Because then the smart thing for me would have been to do, right, is to, like, I draft Raheem Mostert the next pick, like Trey Sermon's on the board.
Yeah.
So, you know, Jerry Jeudy and Dallas Goedert went after that, turning into the 8th, which will be the last round we cover before pausing.
Yep.
And then to do part 2. But so I went Raheem, Jerry Jeudy, Dallas Goedert. And so I'm staring at Trey Sermon right in the face. You want to know who I picked?
Who'd you pick?
Michael Carter.
Woohoo!
Because I'm so smart. Because I don't want Raheem Mostert's insurance policy,
Gotta
who's
love
likely
that
going to
Jet
take
stock.
over halfway through the season. When I have Chris Carson and David Montgomery, who I'm not switching out for the life of me.
Yep.
I have a fine flex in Brandon Ayuk. I legitimately worry I might be too in on Michael Carter. Like I might like him too much.
Yeah.
The hype has just been, it's not out of control, but at the same time, like, he's going to be rising up draft boards.
He is.
Closer to the season. He's got the explosive big play ability. He's tough to tackle. The competition's minimal. The stars are aligning. I'm ready to call it Michael Carter a top 20 running back, but it's just like
Then you're kind of grounded by the fact that he was a day 3 running back.
Yeah.
You know, he's a day 3 pick.
He's a 4th round pick in an offense that is not going to be run script favorable. Look, no knock on Zach Wilson, but teams are going to make him beat them.
Yes.
There's no question. So I'm not backing out on Michael Carter. I'm still in on Michael Carter. Don't get me wrong, but
just makes you a little nervous.
It makes me a little nervous, and given the
100%.
fact I drafted Raheem Mostert, I literally was like, here, Cameron, why don't you take like a running back that's probably going to be a top 20 running back, you know, starting week 6.
Yeah. And so with that, I took Trey Sermon here. RB3, there's been a ton of hype coming out of camp on him. People saying he's got showing great explosiveness, great vision. He's a tough guy to take down. I don't know. I think Ohio State running backs have been pretty good in the last couple of years.
I think they've been okay. I think they've been all right.
Yeah, just guys like Zeke and maybe J.K. Dobbins.
No top 20 finishes. No top 5 finishes. Nothing like that.
So that was kind of my thought there. There was really no other running back that I thought had that kind of upside that Trey Sermon does this late. Obviously, you don't know when he's going to take over. That's the scary part. Is it could be later. I mean, you could get lucky and it could be really early, but you just don't really know. So, but I went Trey Sermon here just to kind of fill in that running back 3. I still haven't taken a quarterback, but I was hoping that some people would fall farther than I think they did.
There was a handful of quarterbacks on the board.
So that's kind of why I was waiting there.
Absolutely. Yep. No, and I don't blame you one bit because I think we're all in favor of like round 7.
Yes.
To 7 to 10 is like there's a lot of good quarterbacks
100%.
in that realm still. So
100%.
Just depends on your preferences and where you're at on the draft board.
Yep.
Debo Samuels after that, Ronald Jones, James Conner, Brandon Cooks, Tyler went to another running back here, and rightfully so.
Yeah, he went Damian Harris, who's getting all the buzz out of
lead back, number 1.
Which might not mean that much if Cam Newton is playing.
Right.
However, if Mac Jones takes over, the touchdowns will probably start coming in.
Yep.
And he was crazy efficient last year. He was averaging 5 yards a rush.
Yeah.
So you know he's good. So he's a good RB3.
Sniffing the top 25 running backs when he's healthy.
Yep. And
that's borderline running back 2 range.
I think with Mac Jones, although they do have James White, so I was going to say with Mac Jones, maybe his passing involvement comes up, but probably not too much because of James White.
Only had 5 receptions last year.
It can only go up from there, but I don't think it'll be too substantial.
No, I would agree with you there.
Yep.
To wrap out the round, LaVisca Chenault, David Johnson, Jarvis Landry, Kenyon Drake and that is where we will close out this episode
for sure
of Mock Draft 3.0. Cameron, how are you feeling about your team so far?
I'm feeling all right. The running backs definitely scare me, and I think for me, I would rather have a team that's so solid in running back. Mm-hmm. And it's just hard for me to remember how good Travis Kelsey is. However, if I had this team and went into the year, I think I'd be all right with it. Yeah. Just because I would see after week 1, I can get 20 points from Kelsey, Cooper, Terry McLaurin, and Mixon. And feel all right with it. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a running back, too, that pops up the first couple weeks of the season. That's like all of a sudden they're like top 20, and you're like, okay, I can use that as my running back, too.
Exactly. You grab someone off an injury or backup on it who's filling in for someone injured. And
there's always something like that every year, so you can get lucky there as well.
100%.
I'm feeling pretty good about my team. Obviously, that round 7 really just threw me for a loop. But up to that, look, I didn't lose my draft. I didn't lose my league. I can tell you that. No. Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, TJ Hawkinson.
Your first 4 rounds are about as solid as they come. So
I'd like to think I hit a home run. Yes. So that is all we have for this episode. We'll be back with part 2 of Mock Draft 3.0 later this week. It'll be just Cameron and I again. For now, thanks for tuning in. Yep. You can follow us on all of our socials. FF Fellas on Twitter, the FF Fellas on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Go give us a follow on TikTok. We've been blowing up on there recently. I need to pat us on the back a little bit. I need to gas us up.
We are so proud of it.
Over 600. We've gained 200 followers in the last 3 days.
Hey, we gotta love it.
It's a dynamic duo. I'm talking stats. He's talking comedy. It's fantastic. Go give us a follow. Share our content.
Yes.
Turn on notifications. Don't miss out on our weekly stuff. Thanks again to Tolena for a dope intro and outro. And we will see you all later.
Yep.
Deuces.